Hey, happy Monday. It is July 17th, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on our end. Welcome to Rise and Thrive Together, Real Talk, Real Results with Dr. Raquel Stuart and Regina Rossi. I'm excited, sis. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you? Hello, everyone. Hello to our listeners, viewers, whichever way you are hearing us. We are so glad you're here with us. I also want to just really quickly say that I'm super excited to hear that, and I don't know how many of you heard the story or the news report about Carly Russell and being back home. She was a young lady, 25-year-old in Alabama on Friday. She saw a toddler walking on the interstate. She got out to help, and the story goes that she was abducted, but she is back home, safe and sound. So we're thankful for that as we continue our conversation on community. And tonight we're going to be doing a little conversation on boundaries and how many of you have them and set them. But I do want to also say next week, we're having a special guest, Dr. Shanique Carmichael. Her story is absolutely incredible. Talk about having a big heart and just giving of herself. We'll hear her story next week. She's phenomenal. Be sure to join us, and you can also look her up right now if you want to. But sis, tell the folks how they can reach us if they want to talk to us, get on the show,
Yes.
sponsor.
Talk about community and the impact of community and the art of community. That is the only way this rise and thrive together is because of you guys. So the way that you can keep connected to us, right, is to be watching the show on our Facebook group, on our YouTube channel, on my personal page, Regina Rossi Lamoth, on Raquel's personal page, Raquel Stewart. We're also streaming on the Laws of Life with Blanca on the Roku TV channel. If you have that, please add that channel to you. And then there's a drop down where you can see all of the other amazing webcasters out there and other shows. And then you'll see Rise and Thrive Together. And the best way that you want to stay in contact with us is check us out, man. Reach us on info@riseandthrivetogether.com. This is where we want to see if you guys are interested in getting more visible and getting out there and coming on stage with us and having your story be told so you can be seen and heard. And let me tell you, inside a community, one story can help anyone, right? If it's from your mind, body, soul. I really feel like right now, sis, what you said about this woman, I don't know the details. I don't know the story. I know it as briefly as Raquel said it. But my personal deep heart and intuition, it is because of community. It is because of that social media that was put out there. I did hear like a lot of people were posting it, sharing it, posting it, commenting, posting everything else. And now she's back safely. Now, whatever that is, whatever the truth as it unfolds, the fact is that's the power of community. That's the power of community. And so, you know, that's just really amazing. And I'm glad. And, we want you guys to be able to be seen and heard. And the best way that the show can have fun and get to be interactive with us. So drop your ahas, drop your questions, drop your truth bombs, drop whatever you need to do, because we are out to have you rise and thrive. Because remember, we're pivoting mindsets, shattering those limiting beliefs, being unshakable through building community. So there we
Absolutely.
go.
You know
Awesome.
what was interesting about that also, Reg, is that celebrities got involved and they posted on their pages. It was just amazing. So when we think of community, we need to get out of our head that community just means our people around us in our small little tribe. Community is so much bigger than we think. To have celebrities involved and also posting that this young lady's missing, hopefully she gets found, that is incredible. And it shows the power of community and what we can do when we do it, when we work together. Okay, so don't
Mhm.
forget that. Somebody's saying hi to us. Hey, Joanna, how are you? Good to have you. Thank you for joining us. So,
Nice.
let's talk about boundaries. Now, some of you may be uncomfortable setting boundaries, but we're going to shatter that limiting belief. We're going to talk about how we do it. And if you don't do it, we're hoping that we encourage you to set boundaries. Even with those that we love, yes, you still have to set boundaries. So, sis, let me ask you, do you have boundaries? Do you set boundaries with those around you?
Ooh, that's such a great question. To be honest, I'm gonna say yes, right? Yes. And what I love about tonight is the fact that I'm gonna assert that many people are like, yeah, I set my boundaries. Yeah, I do. And so how? And what
Mm,
has you create those setting the boundaries, right? Like, what is that? Like, how do I set my boundaries? Or, what, I think I have boundaries. Or yeah, I have very strong boundaries. So I'm, throwing it back to you, sis. What do you hear when I say, like, I say yes? And what is that about? Like, how do we begin to set boundaries, or how do we even know that we need to have boundaries? Like, why boundaries? Why boundaries? I'm going to start
right.
there.
Hey, let me just say hey to Susan. Thank you for joining us. Welcome, welcome. Yes, boundaries are important to have. What's the importance is so people know how to treat us, right? And they don't treat us how they want to. We have to show people how to treat us, and we do so by how we treat ourselves, right?
Mm,
My thing is, people say, yes, I have boundaries. Here's the backup question. Do you reinforce your boundaries? When people cross the line, cross your boundaries, and boundaries are basically just telling people how to treat you. That's what boundaries are. So for those of you who don't know, now you know. I felt like saying baby, baby, but sorry, that was just a Biggie Small moment. Whew, I'm back. I'm back. I have my moments where I can drift, but I bring it back. So how many of you maintain your boundaries? And if someone crosses your boundaries, what's your response to that? So I did a workshop, a class, a meeting, or what have you. And there's 7 types of boundaries. Let me just run through them. This is not a lecture. We're gonna run through them. So I'm going to read, okay? Time. How many of you have a boundary for time?
mm.
Mental boundaries, emotional, material, internal, conversational, and physical boundaries. Those are the 7 types that were taught or talked about in this meeting that I attended. What I find interesting is time. For me, Reg, there are 2 things that are my pet peeves. People lying to me and people wasting my time. But what I've learned over time is that people can only waste my time if I allow them to.
That's
Right? If
exactly
I
what
give them
happened.
permission, yeah, if I give them permission to waste my time, they're gonna waste the heck out of my time. But when I show them my time is valuable, and when you schedule appointments, for example, when I was in the education field, students schedule an appointment with me and they do not show, and they show up when are ready and when they're available. Yeah, so you thought you were meeting with me, but no, our appointment was so and so. So now you need to reschedule. Well, can we meet tomorrow? No, cannot meet tomorrow. We need to reschedule for next week. My time is valuable and people appreciate it. You clearly didn't. You didn't value my time because you didn't contact me. So I'm very rigid, almost, not quite, with people wasting my time. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm curious with regards to people wasting, and I'm going to do quotes, wasting your time, because that's a conversation that you have created for yourself and already kind of like, I so let's do you and me. We have an appointment. I show up late. Like, it's already there inside of your, yourself, like, hey, she's wasting my time. She's showing up late or whatever that is. So it's already
It's
like
not
kind of,
automatic. It's not an automatic, you're wasting my time. If you come and say, hey, listen, sorry I was late. There was, I don't know, a hatchery exploded all over the highway. I don't know. I'm so random. Maybe I'm hungry. I don't know. But maybe something happened. Chickens are scattered all over whatever interstate you're on. I get it. But it's also, let's have the conversation about contact me and say, so that if I have something else that I could do in that space of time, I can now go do that versus I'm just sitting and waiting. But go ahead. Sorry.
no, that's great. Because what I'm really getting out of the conversation here is what, Susan wrote something. And Susan, I'm really interested in having you clarify what you wrote. Because Susan wrote, like, in the social work field, we are taught about boundaries, and it's not a usual conversation. So it is. We get this information. We have this, like, this is what we're taught. And like Raquel said, she sent 7 things. And then what? So then what's next? It's like it's a concept, and then it's like, on your way, this is our experience. This is my experience in social work school. And on your way, here you go. And then the beauty of it is that, when I was doing internships, it was like I would have to write, notes and bring back cases to my supervisor and bring it to the class. And inside the conversation of boundaries is where we would explore deeper.
Mm.
So it was like kind of like on the court, which is cool. And I feel like this platform is an opportunity to, like, kind of give you some information and not kind of stumble your way. Because I stumble your way, I can have a very experience that right now has my heart racing, because the first time where the big red pen, and as an educator, came across like, boundaries, Regina, boundaries, and it was like, but you didn't say that, or you read it for a line, that's in there. So I love what you said. I think what I really heard was communication, super, super important. You and I've talked about this in the past couple of shows, that for me, how Raquel and I work together is we've spent a lot of time talking, and she's very clear, and I get to be very clear about what her expectation is when we have a meeting set up. We just set that up coming up, what we're going to talk about, how we want to communicate to each other, what works, what doesn't work. It's very clear, and it's through our training and development and being with one another. And sometimes it's not, definitely over text. Here's a no for the boundaries: texting, because the mind already reads it in a certain voice, and that might not be the voice that's there. Like if I said, Raquel, I want you to be able to communicate with me, if you're going to be late, as soon as you can. Now that sounds like a regular conversation, but depending on where she's at and what's happening in her life, and when she read it and everything else, that might not come across that way. So I like clear boundaries where I can read them and then have a conversation to make sure that I get clarification and understanding.
Cool. I want to throw that out to our audience. Hi, Odelia. How are you? I want to throw the question out to our audience. Do you have boundaries? Do you set boundaries with the people in your life, whether it's intimate, personal, professional, whatever it is? Do you set boundaries? And if so, how do you maintain those boundaries? Because there are people, and people in my own life, who try to test my boundaries. And they want to keep pushing my boundaries back, so that gives them more space, and that's not going to happen. And I'm very clear when I'm speaking to people. It's about, like you said, Reg, it's about communication, but it's also about respect. Respecting the person who's telling you, these are my boundaries, and you do not cross them. And if you do, then we have to have a different kind of conversation. Susan, yes and yes. Great. But sometimes I'm surprised and have to figure it out. Absolutely. No one's got it totally laid out, right? We don't want you to think, oh, okay, everything's totally laid out. Absolutely not. There are boundaries that I have to set with myself. How many of you set boundaries with yourself? I have to set boundaries about communication. and how I talk to myself. Because there are times where I'll catch myself saying, I'm really not trying to be a jerk. And I'm like, well, why are you saying you're not trying to be a jerk? If you are, you are. If you're not, you're not. It's okay. But you don't even need to use that language. So I catch
Mm.
myself. I catch myself when I'm about to speak something other than life into my life. I catch myself. I'm like, let's stop it right here. Let's not even let that thought drift into a feeling, which is going to elicit a behavior. Let's not have that. I try to stop it here. Sometimes it slips because I am human. I am not a robot, but I have those boundaries. And then I don't beat myself up either when I cross my own boundaries. Right?
Ooh, I
I'm
got
like,
something that came to mind.
go ahead. Let me hear what came.
I was on a call this morning, and one of the conversations, and I'm going to take this to boundaries, is so I'd like to know from you, Raquel, give me one of your clear boundaries with yourself. So can
Mhm.
you answer that first? What's one of a
So
clear boundary?
one of my clear boundaries is to be specific. There are times I can be kind of like wishy-washy. I'm like, well, and then, and no, not and, because I can't take people on a trip. When I want something, I have to be specific. And that's something I'm still working on myself with, being specific. Specificity is the basis for cooperation. So if I want others to cooperate with me, I have to be specific. I can't be all over the place taking them on this traveling trip. Specificity. If I'm specific, people know exactly what it is that I want. So I have to practice speaking or being specific in my speech. I just can't. So there you go.
Great. And the rest of the for lack of a better term, assignment is once we know what that specific boundary, we'll use it in boundaries today. Can you see where, like Susan was saying, sometimes, like where do we break that in other areas? So, meaning you're specific with yourself and you can see it work and not work. And maybe yours works well with me and maybe it doesn't work well with mom, or maybe it doesn't work well with so it was one of those it's one of those inquiries of where boundary are you, like, why does it work in one area and doesn't work in another area, and why does it work in this group of people but not in this specific group of people, and don't do anything to fix or change it. Be in that inquiry, be in that inquiry of starting to wonder what, like look at it deeper and wonder why. I can say, for example, I probably work very well with Raquel, Susan on here, Joanna, who had dropped an awesome truth bomb. We'll get to that in a second, Joanna. And but if it comes to Josh, right? Or if it comes to Lexi, like there's all of these, and Susan's got some great stuff happening. So we got lots of comments, why it works here, because you and I have a very specific intention, right? When we're speaking about our business, what we're up to, the impact we want to make, the difference we want to make.
Mhm.
And I don't always, like you said, stop, take a breath, and then be like, what am I going to speak to him about? Right? Look at his boundary. And today was the perfect example. My husband's not well. He's not well today. And this morning I took Lexi to school and we were late. We were late. I already communicated. Camp was great. They were rocking. He came out not feeling well and was like, like, you gotta go, blah, blah, blah. Now, the right away, that brain, right, wanted to cross that boundary of like being right and being whatever and getting in his face. But the boundary is that we've created is when he says something and I'm clear, all is well, all is handled and all taken care of. I don't need to take that personal. Like, why am I taking that personal? And I understand that he's not well, right? So I just was like, babe, thank you, right? Like, thank you. And, you can go back to bed. And then I was able to write to him. Many times I cross that boundary because me, I'm excited. I want to come in and I talk. He's working and I'm like, Josh, I just spoke to Raquel. I just spoke to her. So now we have this thing. Boom. Hey, I have something to say. I text, hey, babe, I've got something really exciting. I'm coming home at 1 o'clock. Do you have any time for me? to talk about this because it's just like really heavy on my mind or something really exciting. And if it's no, it's not personal. Like he literally is
Right.
doing what he needs to do for this family. Right. And then we create that time. So you can see where it works and it doesn't work. Like Susan was saying, it's like you play in it. Like sometimes you got it and sometimes you got to think about it. And other times you just fail at it.
You know what I've found for me is I'll ask the person I'm speaking with, do you understand what I'm saying? Because if they don't, it's nothing against them. It's me as the person that's communicating that I'm not communicating in a way they understand. And that's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's not about wrong. It's just they don't understand how I'm communicating. So that now leads me to change the way that I'm communicating, whether it's the words that I'm using, gestures, maybe my face and my words are not in sync. They're not synonymous for some reason. Very possible. But I've learned to say, do you understand what I'm saying? Is it clear? Because if it's not, as I said, it's just a matter of me going back and rehashing how I'm saying it, words I'm using. But let's jump in here.
Joanna
Joanna
has
said,
it.
huh?
Oh, yeah. I
Joanna
was going to
said,
say Joanna. Yep.
but stop it. Joanna said, I set the boundary by setting an example in how I treat them, right? And I ask them to reciprocate because that's how things work best for me. I also ask them how they like to interact best. I like that. That's an exchange, right? How would you like me to communicate with you? Here's how I'd like you to communicate with me. And it makes it clear. We can't guess or assume is a better word that people know how we want to be treated. If we don't say, they don't know. Ladies, sometimes we have a habit of thinking people should be mind readers, ladies, and people are not mind readers. If we don't tell them, they don't know. Don't think, well, they should. Why should they? We had this conversation when we were being coached by Patrick about should. And most people are full of should because everything is a should. They don't know unless you tell them. Let me go on. Susan, yes, agreement about boundaries. I lost it. Before a business meeting or relationship helps people know what's expected and needed, kind of like what's your love language? Oh my God, amazing book. We have to definitely do a show about that. Odelia, some people are not specific about boundaries. Exactly. Specificity is the basis for cooperation. You want people to cooperate with you. Be specific in what you want. If you want that apple over there, don't say, well, I kind of like something and I think it may be. What are you saying? First of all, I've stopped listening and just tell me, hey, I want that apple over there. Be specific. We have to learn how to do that. We have to learn how to be specific. So when we communicate to others, hopefully we're clear. And if we're
Yeah.
not,
What
don't make the other
Susan
person
said
wrong.
about
Go ahead, Reg.
yeah, no, that's okay. What Susan said about agreement, I it really just keeps on loud and clear about, us taking the time to understand what works best for us, really get to know ourselves, what works best for me, what best communication, love language, like Susan says, I love language, right? What love language works for me. And then when I'm in that relationship, if it's business, if it's going into a meeting, being able to say, visual works best for me. And, so I might, are we able to have some visuals, right? You and I both know when we're doing webinars and coaching and stuff like that in groups, you always said to me, there's the speaking part, and then we want to make sure that the visuals are up because some people are visual people. So we're looking at not just what works for you and I, but what works for everyone. And so, like you said, being very specific, but we have to know what that is. And if we don't know what that is for ourselves, how can anybody else understand that? And I think that's just
Exactly.
absolutely the most, brilliant. And I love what Joanna said as well, right? That's what she's saying about herself. And then asking, like you said, and then asking, hey, was I clear? I notice, can we have that bold vulnerability to be able to say, like, hey, Raquel, I noticed when I said X, Y, and Z, your face was this way or your arms,
Hmm.
was I clear? Is there anything that like stood out? Did I kind of upset you in any way? And you'll answer yes or no. You'll be like, no, girl, I was just like listening or not. Because if not, we're going to stay in here And then the rest of that communication, the rest of that whole thing is going to go down the drain, and forget about boundaries. Like, boundaries are just going to be muddled and messy. I'm not going to even understand what I want, and I definitely am not going to understand what you may want.
Yeah, and I can't be a part of conversations like that. Because for me, I often say if I don't understand something, I'll say I'm confused. I'm
Hmm.
not really sure what you're trying to say. And if you still it's kind of murky the communication, I still don't understand. And sometimes I'm like, maybe you can draw it. Give me an example of what you mean. I love examples. I've used it in my classroom all the time. I'm like, give me an example. Don't regurgitate what you read. Give me an example. Sometimes examples can be just really helpful. It's the simple things, right? What does Susan say? How we communicate has to do with our personality, upbringing, area we grew up in, trauma, etc. So it's not natural to most people to know how to say what they want.
Whoop.
I get that. I also get that um, we've got to learn how to say closed mouths don't get fed. So if you don't tell me what you want, how am I supposed to know? And I get your upbringing. I get it. I understand area you grew up in. Listen, I know where I grew up. And it was not always saying what you want, but I've since learned I have to say, because if I don't, people don't know. I get what you're saying, Susan, but at what point are we held accountable for being able to communicate what we want? Because then otherwise, what are we doing? We're just going through having people kind of tell us what we want, guess what we want. We've really got to get to a point where we can say it and know that it's okay for me to say what I want. What do you think?
I love
Right?
it. No, I mean, I totally get what Susan's saying. And, the other part, because I know her so well, is it just has me very present to, like, not as a right or a wrong, but how many of us, including myself, right, you know, really have not had this, like, why she said, Susan's saying, we absolutely need to be trained when people demand it, or we learn on our own, or we go for training. Exactly that, what we talked about. Accountable, and the word came out was, when are we going to be responsible? Because listen, we're not talking about children. We're talking about adults. So we're talking out here, Rise and Thrivers. We're happy for any young people that are listening. And I will make up young adults that are listening. But we want to share with you, hey, you're at a point. You're a young adult. You're an adult. You're a middle-aged adult. You're an older adult. You're whatever you want to describe yourself as. We are at an age, and and a point where we need to be responsible for our lives and what we want. And so, absolutely, this is why we're here. It's the reason, one of many reasons why we created this webcast for you guys, to have these conversations. Many of us think we know, like we know. And now, hopefully, we're going to leave you with, wow, I never thought about that. And do I really have boundaries?
Yeah. And some conversations are uncomfortable to have. I get it. I understand it. It doesn't mean the conversation does not need to be had, though, right? Just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean it's not a conversation that should be had or we need to have. Let me not say should. I said should and immediately thought of Patrick saying should. And I was like, oh. But
Shitting all over
uncomfortable
yourself, girl.
conversations is how we learn. Say that again.
You're shitting all over yourself.
I know, I'm making a mess. Being responsible is a gift, not a burden. So well said, Susan. I love it. I take responsibility and I never wanted to, never used to. I used to be like, I was one of those pointing the finger, blaming kind of people. You know what? And then taking responsibility doesn't mean, oh my gosh, I'm wrong. See, we've got to get out of that thinking. Taking responsibility means just that. I get to take responsibility for my actions. I get to control that. So I don't know. But what did Susan say real quick? Yeah, that was it. Oh my gosh, I can't believe time has come and gone
Sure.
already. So it's important. Take responsibility. Communicate clearly. It's a matter of respect. Set boundaries. And if you don't know how, info at Rise and Thrive Together. Okay. Reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to do a training on how to set boundaries. Remember, guys, together, we can rise and thrive. Till next time.